Welcome to this training on emergence. This is Rydall, the founder of the Law of Emergence and the author of the #1 best-selling book, Emergence. And it's just such an honor and a pleasure to be with you. I'm so excited about sharing these ideas with you. But I want to just jump right into a very provocative question and something to think about. Was it a coincidence that right after the massive wave of law of attraction type teachings swept our country, that our economy collapsed? It was right around that same period where they'd really become big. Was it a fluke that after millions of new devotees took up visualizing better jobs and homes, we had the most unprecedented job and home loss since the Great Depression? Think about that for a moment. And how is it that with all of these programs on business success and becoming a messenger, an expert, finding your tribe, building your businesses, becoming richer, more successful, all of that stuff, that more businesses and organizations have struggled and collapsed than ever before? Something is wrong with this picture of self-improvement and personal development. Wouldn't you agree? And I want you to understand, after working with hundreds of thousands of people from around the world in many, many areas of life, I've discovered why so many of these people have failed to get results, or in fact made things worse with all of their self-improvement. And out of working with people and step by step unraveling these myths and these false tactics and strategies that are making things worse in many cases, I've uncovered a process and really a revolutionary principle that will release you from the need to struggle and strive like that anymore, and show you how to naturally access and express the wealth and the genius and the success that is already within you. You see, you were designed for this. Make no mistake, you were designed for success. You were designed for brilliance. You were designed for abundance. I promise you. But that manual that most of us got or were taught, in all honesty, in all humility, it simply didn't get it right. In fact, in many cases, it got it exactly backwards. Now, I'm not being boastful like I'm someone special, like I discovered something that nobody else did. What I'm going to share with you is the perennial teaching, is the truth teaching that all the greatest masters have taught, but that has been largely lost over the ages. It is the teaching that has allowed some of the greatest discoveries, inventions, masterpieces, organizations, but has largely been lost in the wave of personal development over the last several decades. You see, we've been taught that life happens to us, that we are largely at the whims of conditions, people, places, the past lives, genetics, the weather, or, bad hair days, clothing malfunctions, wardrobe malfunctions, whatever, right? And then we have all these teachings and practices to try to overcome and attract and achieve over all of this belief system. But the truth is that life does not happen to you, that life happens through you. It happens through and as you. That the whole pattern of perfection is already planted within you, and you are designed for it to organically emerge like a plant does from a seed. When you understand this principle, what I call the law of emergence, and this process of emergence that I'm going to unpack for you today, you'll be able to make powerful, even radical changes in any area of your life. And by the end of this training, my intention is that you'll see how and really understand why. Now, even more, when you understand how you were really designed to grow and progress and prosper, you'll see that most of the suffering and stagnation you've experienced is because you've been basically trying to ride a bike uphill with the brakes on. That's how we've been taught. And it's not your fault at all. It's how we've been conditioned. But emergence reverses all of that. It puts you back in the proper relationship with yourself, with your inherent power and potential, and the way you were really designed to grow, and shows you the path for unlocking and unleashing that. Now, my promise to you is that if you're willing to listen with a beginner's mind, to really be present for this and to apply this framework and maybe let go of some cherished and outdated beliefs and paradigms, that you will be able to make huge strides, perhaps even miraculous breakthroughs in some of the most important areas of your life. Now, I can say this with confidence because this isn't theory for me anymore. This is like a mathematician telling you 2 + 2 = 4. I've helped people go from being nearly broke, being bankrupt, to having more business than they could handle. People that have been alone, full of low self-esteem, to being in the most passionate relationships of their life. People that were homeless, living out of their car, stuck on dozens of prescription drugs, becoming engaged, getting their first home, getting nearly all of their prescriptions removed over and over. And of course, that's just off the top of my head, and in all the ways that it's transformed my life. Over and over, this principle proves true. And I'm going to talk about how to do this for your life or for some area of your life. And I'm going to, as I said, bust some myths and hopefully expand your mind and open your heart and lift your spirits and maybe blow your mind a little bit. Now, why should you be listening to me? If you don't know who I am, Derek Rydall, why should you be listening to me? What credibility do I have? Certainly, I've got books and programs and all kinds of things out there in the world. But I think more importantly than any of that is that these ideas and insights have come through a whole lot of struggle and pain and suffering on my own. You know, I like so many people, spent years in self-improvement, struggling to heal from my past and get over my heartbreaks and heartaches and betrayals and breakdowns and failures. And after so many years of self-improvement, the only thing I'd improved was my ability to describe why my life was so screwed up. You know, I became masterful. I became extremely improved in my ability to tell you why everything wasn't working, what event it was in my childhood that caused it, etc. But things were not improved. In fact, they got so bad, all of my efforts to improve myself exacerbated my frustration and sense of inadequacy, drove me to become addicted to drugs and alcohol, and nearly die of an overdose. And I remember lying in the hospital bed, the emergency room, with the IV snaking out of my arm and the machine beeping and the doctor saying, you know, you're lucky to be alive. And that was bad news to me. You know, when the doctor says you're lucky to be alive and you take that as bad news, you know you've hit bottom. And, you know, they say the universe taps you on the shoulder and whispers in your ear and then takes a 2x4 to your head. And that really was a 2x4 experience. And as I lay there in the splinters of that 2x4, I just couldn't understand, how did all my efforts get me here? Unfortunately, you know, my brother always said I had a really big head, thick head, and it's true. So that 2x4 wasn't enough. I just figured I must not be working hard enough, and I redoubled my efforts and dug in more, and eventually ended up in a project where I was filming a movie, and I once again was feeling depressed and isolated after a romantic breakup on the set, and I basically went diving in a reef, you know, praying to get lost from everything above, recklessly diving alone, and just sort of a walking self-sabotage is what I was at the time. And, you know, be careful what you pray for, because pretty soon I got lost in this reef, and I got caught in a pocket of giant fire coral and giant spiked coral, rows of it, inches from my eyes, my face, my neck, my throat, my stomach. And if I had tried to lift myself out of the water to see where I'd been trapped, I would have been skewered. If I breathed too deeply, I would have been skewered. If I tried to swim around or over or down, I would have been skewered. I was really trapped. And I didn't know how I got in. I didn't know how to get out. I was trapped. I had to breathe in short staccato breaths. I had to swim with the tips of my fingers just to stay at a certain level under the water so I wouldn't just fall on top of these spikes and be completely skewered. And my mind went through just a maelstrom of scenarios, trying to figure out how to get out, and then thinking somebody might come save me. And then when I realized nobody was coming to save me because nobody knew I was there, it went through all these scenarios and positive affirmations, and none of that was doing anything. And in fact, I was starting to run out of oxygen. I was starting to hyperventilate. I was starting to maybe even hallucinate a little bit. because of the inability to get enough oxygen. And at some point, I realized I'm not getting out of here. This is it. This is how it all ends. And it's hard to understand that finality if you haven't experienced it. There was no more, I hope I get out of here, or I hope I don't drown. It was, I'm going to drown. I'm going to die. And I know it. And all that was left was to surrender. Not the bargaining kind of, dear God, if you get me out of this, I promise to go to church on Sunday. I tried that, and the universe was not bargaining. It was in that moment where the veil was pulled back, the curtain was pulled back on the wonderful Wizard of Oz, and I saw that behind that curtain, I was not in control, but there was a little old boy afraid at the controls, trying to control, but really had no control at all. And all that was left was to let go. And so I did. I gave up the ghost, as it were. And in that moment, something snapped inside of me. The ego was ripped from its moorings. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. And in the crack in that egg, this light came out. And it was just a split second. But I saw something. I saw in a split second that the whole model of how I'd been trying to improve my life, the whole identity I'd been living under and conditioned to believe, was completely false. It was a fictional character. And right behind that was the real self, the real me, that didn't need any improving because he had never been broken. He had never been damaged or diminished. He was already perfect, whole, complete. Now it was a split second. I didn't have all these words for it, but it was radical paradigm shift. And in that same instant, this wave came along. And I still don't even know if it was a wave that came along or I literally levitated out of the water. I honestly don't realize how it happened. But in the next instant, I was like, I leapt out of the water. I somehow lifted out of the water and landed on the coral outside of the reef, the one place I could stand. In that moment of complete surrender, this flash of light, and then bam, I was outside standing on the coral, looking down where I'd been trapped. And the exit was just inches from me the whole time. And as I looked at this giant labyrinth of coral, I could see that it was a metaphor for my life, that I had been swimming through this maze, following all these brightly colored objects. And I had become stuck, trapped, drowning, gasping for air. That was my life. Does that sound familiar? Only now I was experiencing it for real. And I could see now that something had so radically shifted. Everything was luminous. Light was sparkling behind everything. And that man that swam out of that reef was not the one that swam in. And for the next year, I had all these dreams of death and destruction. And I didn't realize until later that the ego doesn't know the difference between real transformation and death. So it was interpreting that energy as danger, as dreams of destruction. And I eventually pulled out of everything, pulled out of society, and was going to become a monk. And the monk life wasn't quite for me. I actually tried to fast and retreat in silence, and I got so hungry, I freaked out, broke into the monk's kitchen in the middle of the night and tried to steal food like some feral little creature scurrying out of the forest. And then went back to my little chambers and proceeded to get sick and have my first out-of-body experience where I was tormented by some kind of demonic force that chased me out of the monastery. And I basically believe to this day it was the monks. And they were basically saying, Derek, you're not meant to be a monk. Get out of here. Go live your life and share what you're beginning to understand. So I cloistered myself in my apartment for the next couple of years and reacquainted myself with this real self that I'd glimpsed. And what I began to see was that this pattern, there was a pattern within me and within all of us and all of nature that was already whole, already complete, planted in the soil of our soul, even before we planted in our mother's womb. And that just like the oak is already in the acorn, and the acorn doesn't have to go out and attract an oak or achieve an oak or become worthy of an oak. That when the acorn surrenders to the soil and the conditions in the soil match the pattern in the seed, its potential naturally emerges. And that we were designed the same way. And therefore, most of my efforts to attract and achieve and improve my life from this premise that something was lacking, missing, broken, was actually creating the majority of the resistance to that very perfect idea from unfolding. Do you understand? That's what's happening to so much of us. That's why millions of people trying to attract and achieve bigger homes and better jobs and more money is literally establishing a vibration of, I don't have enough, I don't have work, I don't have money, I don't have. And that consciousness must produce more of not having. That's why the Bible says, to he who has, more shall be given. To he who has not, even what he has will be taken away. That's why, and this is not a religious statement when I talk about Jesus or Buddha or whoever. These are principles. When Jesus said, when you pray, pray believing that you already have, that you may receive. That wasn't a metaphysical trick to attract something. It was a mystical truth that you already have it. That's why he said when they were all, Master, how are we going to deal with this? And when's heaven going to come? And they're all looking outside of themselves. And he kept saying, it's not out there. It's not going to be over there or over here. It's not going to come through observation. It's within you. He said that. Buddha taught the same thing. Lao Tzu taught the same thing. The whole of nirvana, the whole of heaven, the whole of infinite good, it's within you. But you must stand and take a stance that you got to start from the premise that you've already got it all. And so many of these teachings and trainings that are trying to attract and achieve and make stuff happen are built on a premise that we're separate from the very things that we want and need. And from our senses, it looks like that's true. And that's also why the great master said, the masters taught, do not judge by appearances, but judge righteous judgment, which means discern spiritually, internally, invisibly, what Plato called the realm of the perfect forms. It's all here, but it's invisible. It's energetic. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm getting excited about this. I hope you can tell. So I'm getting like right into the teachings, but do you feel this? So this is why I saw suddenly why things were not working, why they were getting worse for so many people, including myself, why even when we managed to will ourselves into a bigger paycheck, we were often just broke at a higher income bracket because we had manipulated the appearances, but we were fundamentally the same. Or we manifested a bigger house, but we were even less at home. We got a brand new job and ended up with the same jerky boss. I remember one woman who prayed and affirmed herself to get a new house away from earthquake country, only to get a house right in the middle of tornado country, and a tornado took her house out. I know a guy who prayed and affirmed and attracted himself into the Mercedes he always wanted, only to have it in the shop over and over again. And a couple weeks later, or a few weeks later, was now trying to pray himself out of the mess he had affirmed himself into. He had, attracted or manipulated conditions into a Mercedes, but he had not tapped into his own true Mercedes consciousness. This is the fundamental flaw with self-improvement. It's why self-improvement is fundamentally an oxymoron. Because when you know the real nature of yourself, you realize it cannot be improved. It's already whole. An acorn doesn't improve itself into an oak tree. A caterpillar doesn't improve itself into a butterfly. The pattern is already in it. And when the conditions are right, it emerges. And whereas an acorn is indigenous, meaning that its ability to thrive is determined on external conditions, sunlight, the quality of the soil, etc., the right location, you are endogenous. And this means that you carry your weather system with you, that you are self-effulgent, which means you can turn on and activate the light of your being and shine it upon the seed planted in the soil of your soul, no matter how dark it is outside. You can have a greenhouse going on inside of you 24/7, no matter what the weather is outside of you, growing and thriving and nurturing and cultivating the soil of your soul to match the seed of your potential because of your endogenous nature. It's how powerful you are. And when those conditions become a match, which you have complete control over, nothing can stop your potential from emerging in any area of your life. So take a breath. Let that soak in and hear the resonance in my voice that I'm not speaking theory here, folks. I'm not speaking touchy-feely affirmations. This is truth. This is the truth about you, and it's barely scratching the surface. This is the law of emergence. And the law, it doesn't matter how long you've been unplanted, ungrounded. The minute you tap back in, which I'm going to show you how, and you create the conditions, which I'm going to talk about how, that seed of potential must begin to grow. Just as if you have a seed that's been lost in your pocket for years and you finally plant it in the soil and create the right conditions, the soil can't go, oh, I'm sorry, little seed, but afraid you missed your window of opportunity. You can't grow, you had your chance, sorry, or, besides, you came from a long line of seeds that never amounted to much. No, if you plant it and you cultivate the conditions, the law of emergence must grow that potential. The same is true for you. So, there's the old saying, Chinese saying, when is the right time to plant a tree? Answer, 30 years ago. When is the next best time to plant a tree? Today. All right? So it doesn't matter where you've been, where you've come from. Today is your day to plant or tap into that seed of your potential. And it won't take 30 years, okay? Just want to reassure you, that was just an example. So now a lot of people want to know, so what's the difference between law of attraction and law of emergence, right? And I'm not bashing law of attraction. Law of attraction is a powerful principle. It gets activated and used accordingly when you're in law of emergence. But law of attraction lives at a relative level, the same realm as cause and effect, which we now understand from quantum physics. Cause and effect is relative. It's not really absolute. It's what's called a linguistic convenience. Okay? There's not, when you water a plant and create the conditions, you don't cause a plant. You create conditions that allow that which was already there to emerge. When you tune into a station and you get music, you didn't make the music happen. You made it welcome. It was already broadcasting. And in the quantum field, everything is already broadcasting. Infinite possibility, infinite ideas and patterns of potential are already broadcasting. And through focus and attention and intention, the observer effect, you collapse that superpositionality, which is what it's called because it's neither a wave nor a particle. It's just a potential, but it's really a pattern. It collapses and becomes an experience, a form. But it's not causing it because it's already happening. Do you see? It's already there. You're just coming into alignment with what's already happening so that it can happen through and as you. It emerges in the field. It's not caused. Why is that important? Why is that not mere semantics? Because as long as you think there's cause and effect, there's duality and separation. There's a time lag, there's you, and there's the thing you want. And that's where you get into attraction and all of that. And you're trying to draw things to you or push yourself toward things. And that's where all the resistance, the struggle, the suffering comes up. That's where you have a tendency to push the thing you want further and further away because you're starting from the premise that you don't have it. That's where you have a tendency to burn yourself out on the way to getting it because you think you're causing it, right? And so, and that's where even if you do willfully manifest something, you often only exacerbate. I remember when I started to manifest a lot of money through those old means, and it was fun for about a week. And then I was more stressed out, more in fear than ever before. Because now I had so much more money to manage and so many more questions to answer. And I felt so much more overwhelmed because I had not really grown. I just merely manipulated. And so that's one of the things. Now, it's a linguistic convenience also in the way that, we talk about the sun rising and setting, but we know the sun doesn't rise and set. The planet's revolving or rotating, and it gives the illusion of rising and setting. And, it's more romantic to say, hey, darling, let's go watch the sun rise or set versus, hey, babe, let's go watch the planet rotate. I mean, unless you're like an astronomer picking up another astronomer in a bar, maybe that would be a good line. It might be a very funny line. But it's really not rising and setting. The planet's rotating. We're not really causing things. It's the appearance of cause and effect. But what's really happening beneath that is the emergence of a potential that in a pattern that's already there. And when you live from the emergence level, that's a higher, more refined, more true, more absolute level. You reduce tremendous drag and resistance and lag time and struggling and suffering. And also, you allow for a greater possibility to emerge that's beyond your imagination. Because one of the other limitations of cause and of law of attraction and things like that is you're fixated on what you think the outcome should be. And oftentimes you're trying to literally manifest limitation, like a caterpillar trying to manifest a better life using, vision boards and all that kind of stuff. Only it would imagine a better caterpillar life, better caterpillar body, better caterpillar partner, better caterpillar job, better caterpillar neighborhood, right? And if it actually succeeded at that, it would thwart its true destiny, which was to spread wings and fly, where many of those things would become moot and obsolete. So that's the difference. The big shift here is we're moving to a higher, more refined, more congruent way of operating, how we were really designed. Then law of attraction kicks in, and naturally at the level of cause and effect, it generates what appears like cause, effect, and attraction. But we're not manipulating it at that level. And so we get free of all of the baggage that level creates. Make sense? Now, I'm going to give you an overview of the emergence framework, the 7-stage process for activating the emerging power in any area of your life. And then I'm going to go a bit deeper into a few of the stages. I'm going to do as much as I can in the short time we have together. And what I think are the most important ones for you to understand and begin to play with. And I'm going to give a few case examples on how this specifically has been used and can be used to manifest things like your dream job, your dream home, world travel, and so much more. Sound cool? So, get out a pen and paper or computer. And I almost said typewriter. That really ages me, and I'm not that old. But I do remember when we had word processors, but I digress. So get ready to take notes, stay present, keep breathing, and have fun with this. Now, there's 7 core stages, and I'll say them first quickly, and then we'll jump back to breaking them down a little bit more. So the first stage is stage 1, see the completed vision. This is about tapping into that seed pattern. Step 2, cultivate congruent conditions. This is cultivating the soil to match the seed pattern. Stage 3, create the quantum plan. This is about creating the structure around that seed, around that emerging plant, that emerging idea that keeps it straight and true and strong until it can stand on its own. Like many plants need some kind of structure to hold them up. Otherwise, they'll just fall over. Stage 4, give what appears missing. One of the most important principles you're going to learn today will radically change your life forever. If you get it, if you really listen. So powerful. If you just get that alone, your life will never be the same. And that's not exaggeration. Stage 5, act as if you're it. This is about understanding the right use of action from the emergence model versus trying to make stuff happen. It's more about making it welcome. It's more about using action as a living affirmation. Stage 6, embrace what seems broken. Another one, a close second to the stage 4, give what appears missing. This has been one of the most popular and transformational stages to people around the world. This one, again, if you get this, radical change, game changer. Stage 7, wait on the law. And this is how to understand that infinite patience brings about immediate results, how to stay rooted, stay planted, stay on track when you hit these thresholds. That is the ego's way of trying to prevent you from changing and growing. And hopefully we'll get into a little bit more about that today. So those are the 7 basic stages. I know I said them fast. I'm going to go through a couple of them again. But again, stage 1, vision. See the completed vision. That's the seed. Stage 2, cultivate those congruent conditions. That's matching the pattern in the seed, cultivating the soil that matches it. Stage 3, create the quantum plan, creating the structure that supports the growth. Stage 4, give what appears missing. This is about recognizing, because everything is within you, whatever's missing is what you're not giving. And this shows you how to turn on that divine power plant within you and unlock unlimited abundance. Stage 5, act as if you're it. This is how to use action as a powerful open sesame, as a living affirmation, as a moving affirmation that is often the missing piece, the missing little extra element that makes the whole thing work for people. Stage 6, embrace what seems broken. This is how to understand that everything you've been trying to fix, get rid of, deny, repress, reject, that you're ashamed of, guilty of, is actually an unintegrated aspect of your potential, of your power. And when you understand this process and apply it, you will begin to so accept yourself, to feel like you are so enough, more than enough. You will become free of the burden of never feeling good enough. And I cannot tell you how this will change your life. Well, I can, but it's just one of the most powerful things that I've discovered and helped people to discover. Stage 7, wait upon the law. And so I want to dive in a little bit to a few of these. First of all, just the foundational ones at the beginning. See the completed vision. It's so utterly important that you make as your number one priority getting clearer and clearer on the vision for your life. Getting clearer on what is the seed planted in you that's trying to emerge in your life. And I don't mean merely what is your job. See, we don't really understand vision in often cases, and it's not really taught, unfortunately, very clearly or accurately. Your true vision for your life, a vision is not something you make up. It's what you're made of. Your purpose is not just your job. It's the very blueprint of your soul, the energy grid of your soul. And a lack of vision is one of the primary reasons why we have so many problems in our life. We're trying to solve all these problems extrinsically, externally, work on our health, our wealth, our work, etc. When really it's that we become disconnected from that true pattern of our soul, that true energy source and essence, that divine design that we're made of, that carries the energy and the information, that when that starts to flow again like a tree through all of its branches, all of those areas of our life we've been trying to work on separately, because they're really not separate. They are meant to be expressions of our deepest vision. When we're disconnected, they are like they're cut off from the tree. They begin to wither. When we get back in touch with this, they begin to thrive again. They get energy, they get information, they get intelligence. And that's also why it says in Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. It doesn't say where there is no vision, the people have a bad day. Where there is no vision, the people don't lose the last 5 pounds on their diet. Where there is no vision, they don't make 6 figures this year. No, it doesn't say that. It says they die. And if they don't literally die, they become like the Walking Dead. As I jokingly say, all of these zombie shows and movies, this is a metaphor, folks. We become a society that's more focused on what we can acquire and consume. Consume. We are called what? Consumers, not creators, consumers, like a zombie. All we live for is to consume. Most people's TV screen is bigger than the vision for their life. We got a problem, right? So that's why, because people aren't anchored in vision, or we become merely conditioned to be problem solvers. And then we're always trying to solve a problem and we're stuck at the level of the problem, which is why the problem never gets solved. Even if we seem to get rid of it, it shows up again in a different form. It's why the average person doesn't live 70 to 90 years. They live the same year 70 to 90 times. There's no vision. They've already died and they don't know it yet. They're walking around on life support and they don't even know it. And there's no judgment here. This is just understanding what's happening. you must make it a number one priority. And that doesn't mean you have to have every detail or crystal clarity. It just means you have to make it a priority to start to get in touch with who you really are and why you're really here. Because you have a right and a reason to be here. And if you're not clear about that and you're not living that, life doesn't support you. Not because it doesn't love you, but because you're not doing your job. You're not fulfilling your function, right? That's the esoteric meaning of that parable or that story in the Bible where Jesus goes to the fig tree and the fig tree is not producing fruit and he curses it and it dies. People are like, they try to like ignore that part. It's like, why would he do that? That's so mean. It's a metaphor. It's a symbolic. It's not producing fruit after its own kind. It's not fulfilling its function. It has no use. You know, you didn't come here to take a vacation. You didn't come here to just find the best sales at Walmart and, you know, stock up on stuff, you know. No, you came here as a function of a greater emerging pattern. And as you step in to fulfill that, bliss and ecstasy is the activation of your true purpose and function. Vision is the entry point to that. And then when you're living it, all the things you've been struggling to get are added on to that. The peace, the love, the joy, the companionship, the community, the wealth, the health, all of that. That is the byproduct. Just as the fruit of the tree is the byproduct of a tree rooted in the soil, rooted in its true purpose and function. We're focused on just wanting the fruit without taking care of the root. But not you, not here, not anymore, right? Cool? So that's what this stage is all about, getting tapped into that. And I'll tell you later how I can support you in really unpacking this, because your life is filled with all the clues you need to know who you are and why you're alive. Stage 2 is cultivate the congruent conditions. And this is one of the funnest stages. And this is about beginning to design a life and a way of life inside and out that is a match for that vision. And one of the simplest ways you can begin to do this, a shortcut trick, which you'll probably recognize, is once you have a sense of what your life, what's trying to emerge, you visualize it and you really feel the feelings. You identify the qualities, and you identify the qualities of feeling and the qualities of being. And then by just visualizing that and letting go of the picture, that's a key, and staying with the feeling tone. Or if you have to hold on to the picture to keep feeling it, keep most of your attention on the feeling. The picture, this is where people have gone awry with the law of attraction. They're so focused on the picture and trying to make that picture happen. And that picture may never happen, and it may be completely wrong for you. But if you focus on the feeling tone, it will always be right, because the feeling tone never lies. So you focus on the feeling tone, the joy, the expansiveness, the power, the freedom, etc. And then if that picture isn't the right thing, it will evolve and shift eventually, and you'll be moved and guided into the right way. But so that, what I call the VVR, visualization, vibration, radiation process, you focus on the feeling, you let go of the picture, you breathe, let that feeling expand to fill your whole body. And you can even do this right now. Just take one of those qualities of your highest vision, of whatever you want in your life right now. Feel into it. Let it expand. Breathe, and as you exhale, let it expand. Fill your body with it. Give it a color. See it saturating your body. Breathe in again, and as you exhale, let it expand now to radiate beyond your body, saturating everyone and everything in your experience. And then you can hold your hands out and breathe again, and as you exhale, feel the energy coursing from your heart, down your arms, out of your palms, and saturating the planet in front of you like a small ball suspended in air. Just see these beams of light energy pouring out of your hands and saturating everyone on the planet and everything. Just blessing and radiating this energy. This is a powerful process you can do every day. And as you do, you are activating what's called the visionary vibration, the vibration of your soul. And even if the picture you started with ultimately is coming from the ego or societal conditioning, it's okay, because that vibration is true. And it will begin to clothe itself in insight, guidance, direction, and experience that is congruent with your soul. There's some other things you'll need to do later on, but that's the first step, okay? Now, there's other things that I'm going to share with you later about how to create a way of life that puts this process on autopilot so that you are activating your soul's code, your soul's blueprint, your visionary vibration daily, even without having to think about it. And more becoming a match for your vision. And you just watch as things start to spontaneously break out and emerge in your life that are guiding you and directing you and opening you up to this life of your dreams, often in ways that shock, surprise you, and are better than you can imagine. So then we get to stage 3, and I'm not going to talk too much about it today, but this is the structure part, and it is utterly important. It's so important because you can start off doing these things, but if you don't have structure, if you don't have a program that's in place to support you in staying on track, a plan that you can focus on daily so that you don't get pulled off by the storms of your emotion or other people's needs, if you don't have some kind of structure that is rooted in a daily practice that's activating this vibration, that's the quantum level, and then a daily action plan that is having you step into your vision in some way on a regular basis, and I'll tell you more about that in a little bit, why that's so key, then what's going to happen is you're going to run into your ego's thresholds. You're going to come up with every good and rational seeming reason for why you can't do it today, why you can't do it tomorrow, and eventually you're not doing it at all. You know what I'm talking about. It's one of the biggest complaints. People start and then they hit a threshold, they don't even realize it, and then 6 months later, they're like, oh, I tried that, it didn't work. And I'm like, really? Did it not work, or did you stop working it? And it turns out they stopped working it. Oh, well, it just, it got so hard. Or, oh, I just wasn't inspired to write that book, as if that has anything to do with it. And I want you to know it doesn't. That's called emotional reasoning. But if you don't have this structure in place with a level of accountability and support, you will hit that threshold. And the ego is masterful at tricking you into thinking you have a good reason. But what it really is an excuse. I'm telling you what I know. I've done it. I've lived this. I've lived in those thresholds for many years, round and round in circles until I understood what was really going on. And I've sat in meditation, observing my mind trying to trick me for thousands of hours to identify and notice, wow, look at what it's doing there. Look at how it's tricking me. Look at how convincing that is. It's got the thought, the emotion, the sensation, the images. It's so good at putting on a movie that convinces me why I can't go to the gym today because I'm tired. So what? You're endogenous. You're a divine power plant. A power plant doesn't receive energy, and it doesn't even have energy. It generates it. Act like a healthy person, and you'll activate health and energy. Don't wait to be inspired to write your book. Act like an inspired person would act today, and you'll activate inspiration. That's how powerful you are. That's what this teaches you to begin to do. And no longer will you be a victim to conditions, mental, emotional, or physical. But you will be able to turn on that divine power plant and activate it. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I'm passionate about you understanding this, about understanding how powerful you are, about understanding that nothing is stopping you. Nothing. I promise you. When you understand this, you can turn that on at will. Okay, so then we get to stage 4. One of the most important shifts, we've already touched upon it, and that is, I call it the great reversal, and that is that everything is within you, so whatever's missing is what you're not giving. And wherever you're trying to get something, you're living life backwards. And what do you get when you live backwards? You get evil. Look at the word evil. Evil is the word live backwards. And what do I mean by evil? I mean you get all the nasty, bad, yucky stuff of life. You get the conflict, the stress, the resistance, all of that when you are trying to get stuff from someone or something because you're living backwards. The truth is you've got it. You've got it all. Human comes from a Sanskrit term for man that means the dispenser of divine gifts. That's you, boo. That's you. So if you're trying to get stuff from people in the world, you're asleep to a false identity that you've been conditioned into. And let this be the moment where you snap out of that. In this stage, stage 4, you become a master of recognizing those areas. And even now, I just invite you to notice one area where you are extremely looking to somebody as your source, whether it's to get validation, approval, love, acceptance. Or maybe you've even resigned to it now. You just sort of withdrew and resigned, you'll never get it. And just ask yourself, if I really, truly loved, validated, approved myself, whatever it is, how would I treat myself in this relationship? How would I hold myself? What would I do? What would I stop doing? What would I do more of, less of? What conversation might I have? If I, fill in the blank, loved, validated, approved of myself, and really gave that to myself and really believed that of myself, how would I be in my life in general? What might I start doing? What might I be bold enough to do? What might I stop doing? Contemplate that for a moment. And just notice what starts to bubble up in your awareness. Just identify one area, one quality that you've been trying to get from someone, or have even given up on it because out of resignation, resentment. And now claim responsibility for giving it to yourself. If I really, really loved myself, validated myself, approved of myself, respected myself in this area, how would I be? And just notice what begins to bubble up. That's the beginning of understanding and practicing this stage. Now, there's so much more to it. Again, by the end of this training, I'm going to share with you how to really do a deep dive and master this. But you're starting to get this. It's like it's all within you. The seed of your destiny of greatness is already within you. You get to cultivate the conditions within you to match it so that it emerges, no matter what you've been through or where you are or what's facing you. And wherever you're trying to get something, you now realize you've got the power to give it to yourself and then to give it to the world. That's the law of circulation that you understand in this module, in this stage, which is you cannot give what you don't have. So a lot of you are trying to give something that you don't really have, and that's why you're burned out, resentful, overwhelmed, or have even given up. And then once you give it to yourself, fill yourself up, you cannot keep what you don't give. That begins the circulation. Then you cannot sustain what you don't receive. So a lot of you are not giving it to yourself, burning yourself out, or not giving it to others and withholding and saying, well, I'll give it when they start doing this or they start doing that, and you're stagnating. Or you're giving it to yourself, you're giving it to them, but you're not receiving it. People are giving you compliments, giving you opportunities, giving you love, and you're deflecting it, brushing it off, not letting it in. So it's like one breath cycle. You have to breathe in, then you have to breathe out, and then you have to receive air back in again. If you just breathe in, you will implode. If you just breathe out, you will expire. If you don't breathe back in again, you will die. Okay? So this is the law of circulation. And when you understand that it all begins with you, you are no longer a victim. I mean, never again do you have to be a victim. Would that be valuable in your life? So there's so much more I could tell you about. These are just the foundational stages. But when you understand this, and we haven't even gotten to stage 5 or 6 or 7, but when you understand this, the things you can begin to do are life-changing. And I'll just tell you a few examples in my own life. So, years ago when I had my big opening and breakthrough, and then I ended up losing everything. And then eventually I went and I had to get a job as a waiter. And I went from being an up-and-coming successful actor to a waiter. I did it in reverse instead of going from a waiter to an actor. And I was humiliated and depressed, and why has God forsaken me? And I was beginning to understand these principles, though. So I began to go, okay, well, what is my vision for my life? And, I hated my job. I hated my life, but I knew I wanted something more. And I began to bring the qualities of that vision, as I'm telling you, into that waiter's job. I didn't wait for something to change in the world. I became the change I wanted to see, as Gandhi says. I brought the qualities of my vision. I began to step into being that person and activating those feelings on that job. And I started to feel good again. And then I got fired. And I got hired back, and the manager said it was a mistake. It was an error. Maybe somebody was trying to scapegoat me, but whatever, gave me my job back. That made me a little bit nervous and cautious, and I had to dig a little deeper. And I began to access even more of my vision, bring even more of my game, show up to excellence and service, help the other waiters, really give the best service, stop gossiping, really cleaned up my side of the street. And I was now thriving again at a whole new level. Amazing tips, people writing to corporate about what a great waiter I was. I thought I'd really found the code. And then I got fired again. And I'm like, what is going on here? So then I got hired back, and one manager said he thinks the other manager kind of scapegoated me, was maybe afraid I was bucking for their position, right? And some of the other waiters were kind of like, why is this guy being so excellent? He's making us all look bad. So I'm like, wow, now I felt alienated. I felt like an outcast, but I'm like, but there's a principle at work here. So I dug a little deeper, embraced those parts of me that were feeling bad, showed up more excellence, brought the qualities of the vision, and I was flying again. I was the best waiter on the planet in my mind, right? And then I got fired a third time. I decided to stay fired this time. But I was so on fire. I mean, I got fired and I was on fire. And within a few weeks, I got hired, where I went from waiting on people in a 3-star restaurant to being wined and dined in 5-star restaurants around the country. I went from making $50 a day to $1,000 a day. I went from dreaming about sharing my ideas with the world to being paid top dollar to do it with some of the top people in corporate America and media. I was living my dream. But here's the key. That didn't happen in my future. That happened where I was planted on that job. I stopped waiting and I started serving. And because a plant can only grow where it's planted, you can only grow where you're planted. So whether it's the job you hate or the relationship that isn't working or the body that isn't working or the bank account that's not working, this is how it works. Now, another example where I wanted to get our first home was living in a townhome, small little dark townhome, had our first baby, wanted to get a house with a yard, couldn't even begin to afford it, right? And most of my friends thought I was crazy for even considering it. Why are you wasting your time? Why are you getting your hopes up? Even my parents were like, come on, it's going to take years. You're going to save up all that. I was like, no, there's a principle here. I have a vision. I feel this impulse, what I call the emerging impulse. And so I put it to work. I had the vision. Now understand, this is not the same as attraction. I wasn't trying to attract anything. That emerging impulse, that desire means of the sire, of the father, of the creative principle, or from the heavens. It's a clue of not what's outside that you need to go get, but what's inside trying to get out. It's like the baby kicking in a pregnant woman. That burning desire, that emerging impulse is telling you you're pregnant. And a pregnant woman doesn't feel the kick and try to go make a baby happen or attract a baby, or pretty soon those nice men in white jackets and good upper body strength are going to come take her away, right? So, and she's going to lose her baby. No, she nurtures it. She visualizes a life with that child. She feeds herself good vitamins. She exercises. She prepares the place. But none of it is to attract a baby. It's not to make a baby happen. It's to make the baby within her welcome. I want you to really get this distinction. This is emergence. And so I began to do that with this house. I had a vision. me and my wife began to treat our current place as if it was our dream home. We began to fix it up as best as we could. We began to then take action, move in the direction of our vision, go look at homes, model homes. And then we'd come back and we'd look at our place and it was like, oh God, this tiny little place. And we felt depressed and sad again compared to the model homes we were at. But then we did the work, got back in the saddle, felt the feeling, stepped into the being, took the action, felt inspired, felt like we were in our dream home, came back, felt depressed. But then one day I crossed that threshold and it felt the same. And I get chills now even thinking about it. In that moment, the cosmic tumbler clicked into place and we were no longer living in a little townhouse. We were living in consciousness in our dream home. I was there. And here's the interesting thing. I no longer needed a home. We didn't really care if we had a dream. We were in our dream home. Within the next week, I had a vision. I had an insight. I saw how we could and how we would get our dream home. Within about a month of that, we were moving into our dream home. Boom. It's possible. I did this with world travel. I did this with launching my business. And I've helped clients do the same in pretty much every area of their life. So whether it's you want to launch a business, whether you want to get your dream home, whether you want to grow your wealth, your health, or live your deepest destiny, this template, this blueprint of emergence is a simple step-by-step way for doing that. Now, we're pretty much out of time now, but I hope I've not impressed you with my story, but impressed upon you what's possible with your story. That you don't have to be a prop in this divine production anymore, an extra standing in the wings watching everybody else play, but that you can take center stage and become the star of your show. I promise you, I'm telling you what I know. Are you willing? Are you ready to stop getting ready and start playing full out? If you are, I want to help you take this deeper. And I hope you really feel that I'm not holding anything back. I'm giving you everything I can within the time I have. But if you really want to master these principles and take this step-by-step template and lay it over the area in your life you most want to blast through, then I want you just to click on the special offer button on the page you're listening to or in the link in your email that you got for this training. And I want to tell you a little bit more about this special program, Emergineering, which is a step-by-step simple process, a blueprint for engineering the full emergence of any area or project in your life, just like I use for all those examples and my clients have around the world for many more. And just click on the special offer button and scroll down and begin to look at that as I describe a little bit more about what's in this package. And what I want you to understand is this isn't theory. This has come from, a couple decades of being in the trenches and working this and practicing and applying and testing and proving. It's a proven step-by-step system. It's not just some newfangled new concept or theory. And it's an in-depth program, over a dozen hours, a dozen audios, step-by-step, walking you through with templates, with specific guidance, really walking you through understanding how to apply this in your specific areas, how to tap into through a whole vision workshop. You're going to see how to tap into that seed pattern, that vision. Through a step-by-step process, you're going to see how to cultivate those congruent conditions in your life. And I just touched upon, there's so many specific ways I'm going to show you how to do this. And then how to create that quantum plan so that you have structure, that you're supported. In addition, there's another bonus I'm going to give you where I'm going to do quantum healing work for you. I don't have time to go into all of what it is, but suffice it to say, it helps to dissolve the lower frequencies and make you energetically more congruent with your highest vision. I'm going to do that work for you personally to support you. And then Stage 4, give what appears missing. We talked about that. Stage 5, act as if you're it. Stage 6, embrace what seems broken. I'm going to walk you step by step how to take all the things that you've been trying to get rid of, heal, change, repress, reject, ignore, hope it goes away. Those parts of you have the most shame around, guilt around, fear around, and help you to embrace and integrate the power within them. We didn't even get a chance to touch upon this. If you just get this stage alone, as well as stage 4, I promise you, your life will not look the same. And you will not look at yourself the same. Just imagine waking up and knowing there's nothing wrong with you. Just imagine if everything you thought was bad or broken about you is actually your hidden power and genius. Just as the dark, rich soil, which is made of everything that has died and decayed before, those dark places within you are the pure light of your being and potential. And this emergence process is going to show you how to shine the light on that and activate that potential. I'm telling you, it's radical. And I mean that in the best sense of the word. It's one of the most sought after approaches and practices in my work around the world. And it has helped people change their life, not in months, but in minutes. And I give you a process in here to do that. Stage 7, wait upon the law. I show you how to bring this all around, how to stay rooted, how to stay the course, how to work with your thresholds so that they don't keep knocking you back into a loop that the ego will put you in, so that you can really take your life to new level and new level and new levels and integrate yourself there permanently. And there's so much more on here I want you to see. There's additional bonuses that are worth hundreds, if not over $1,000, coaching bonuses, coaching training videos, the VVR process I told you about for cultivating the conditions. I'm going to give you that whole process as an audio. So much here. Please look and see all that you get in this package. It's worth thousands of dollars. If you just bought the program separately for retail, it would cost you many, many times more. So this is not filler. This is not padding. This is really a program. This is really a complete package, and you really are getting it at a fraction of the cost. And so, and it's not available forever at this cost. So if you're feeling that resonance for this small investment in yourself, and you get a chance to try it out, get results, and if not, get a refund. But give yourself the chance to get into this material and to begin to feel the quantum activations that come with it, in that the work that I'm doing, but also every audio is high frequency encoded. It starts to work on you even before you work on yourself. People describe just starting the program, just upon registering, they start to feel an energy shift because you're stepping into this frequency. And that may sound a little woo-woo to some of you, but it's quantum physics, folks. And I'm just telling you what I hear all the time. They start to experience breakthroughs happening rapidly, even before they've dug into the program, because you're stepping into this morphic field. So give yourself a chance to do that, will you? If you're feeling that yes, you must say yes to your yes. And like Indiana Jones in that movie where he steps out on that invisible bridge, and only when he steps does the bridge appear beneath his feet. That bridge, by the way, was called the path of God. You have to step out on your resonance, step out on your yes. You can't wait for the bridge to appear first. You can't wait for all your ducks to be in a row. When you step out on your yes, the bridge appears. I'm telling you what I've proven over and over again in my own life. And this program will support you in putting scaffolding under that bridge so it's anchored permanently. And I just look forward to connecting with you more, to meeting you in person at some point. And I hope you can really feel my heart. I wish you could see my face. I wish I could take your hand right now, because I know how scared and unsure you might be. You've been through programs and they didn't work for you. Why will this be different? You've tried things and it didn't work for you. I get it. What I want you to understand is this is different. And what's your alternative? If you're feeling the yes and you don't say yes to your yes, remember, whatever's missing is what you're not generating, what you're not giving. The alternative is to give up. Please don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your dream. It's knocking at the door of your heart saying, let me out. And this emergence process is the way to gently and lovingly, and sometimes even effortlessly, unleash that potential. All right, so take a look at that. Click on the special offer, scroll down, read what's in there, and click on the button to join the program. Come join our community. You can read some of these powerful testimonials, but give yourself the gift of saying yes to your yes and experiencing the power of emergence. And know that there's no risk in doing that. If it doesn't work, you get a refund. And so I hope this has been helpful and inspiring. Whatever you choose to do, I hope it's not too bold of me to say that I feel deeply connected to you, that I love and appreciate you for being here, for showing up, for being willing to step into a greater life, because as you lift yourself up, you lift up all of human consciousness. It's another principle of quantum physics. So thank you for being here. I look forward to connecting with you, to helping you make this next year the best year of your life. And until next time, remember to live authentically, love unconditionally, and follow your destiny.